This week, we catch up with Playground Games to chat about what's going on in Forza Horizon 2, which is available right now on Xbox One. Jonny Robot delves into the spooky weirdness that is the Vanishing of Ethan Carter, and Jackson is back with a review of Super Smash Bros. For 3DS. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week we would like to congratulate Team Arete, who were crowned champions at the World of Tanks WGL APAC Asia Season 2 finals last weekend. The Korean team beat some strong competition from China's Elong Gaming and Japan's Charlotte Tiger to take home the gold in a 2-day event in Seoul, South Korea. Player Attack was in Seoul to watch as it all happened, and we will have an in-depth look at the Esports Championships in an upcoming episode. Meanwhile, we now know exactly what not to do when your game is published on Steam. Mike Malbec from development studio Code Avarice was a little upset after Steam labelled his game Roguelike Paranormal Activity as early access when it had actually launched as a full release. Malbec took his grievances to Twitter, posting simply, "I am going to kill Gabe Newell. He is going to die." It's worth noticing that Mike is using the spectacularly poorly chosen Halloween-themed name of Mike Murderbeck at this point. Unsurprisingly, Paranormal Activity was swiftly removed from Steam, something that Malbec was even more upset about, but not as upset as he was once the story gained publicity. Within 48 hours of his initial tweet, Malbec had apologised for the statement, which he obviously did not mean but was regardless completely unacceptable. He also stepped down from the developer, handing the reins over to his former colleagues so they could try a little damage control. So there you go, if you do get your game published on Steam, maybe don't issue death threats to the company founder. In happier news, we have a double whammy from Blizzard. After nearly 10 years of asking very nicely, Australia and New Zealand are finally getting local World of Warcraft servers. Lead game designer Ion Hazikostas made the announcement at a recent event in Sydney, which also happens to be where the new servers will be located. The good news gets better. If you are already playing on an Oceanic realm, you will be automatically put onto the new hardware, so you will start enjoying seriously improved latency as soon as it rolls out. This is a process that will be finished by the time Warlords of Draenor launches on November 13. If you are currently playing on a North American realm, you will be offered a free character transfer to join the local servers and enjoy all the benefits. And that's not the only good news to come out of Blizzard. Metallica is set to play the closing ceremony at this year's BlizzCon, held in Anaheim on November 7 and 8. Last year, visitors were treated to a rock show by Blink-182, but this year things are getting a little heavier. If you can't get to BlizzCon and still want to know about all things Blizzard, don't fret, you can still pick up a virtual ticket or just stay tuned to Player Attack. We have also heard some good news from Nintendo. Super Smash Bros. For Wii U is getting bigger and bigger, with the revelation that you will be able to jump into 8-person brawls when the game launches next month. This gameplay mode will only be available on stages that are big enough to handle that many players and will only appear in the Wii U version. As part of a recent Nintendo Direct, the publisher also revealed that you will be able to design and create your own stages for the game, and the inclusion of random stage bosses like Ridley and Metalface. There are some new interaction services with the 3DS version as well. You will be able to bring your perfectly customised fighter over from the 3DS to the Wii U, and if you truly love the handheld version of the game, you can control the Wii U action directly from your 3DS.
If you have the Nintendo 3DS version of the game, you can use the handheld to control your fighter in the Wii U version's Smash mode. Choose Nintendo 3DS on the Wii U menu. Then on your portable, choose Wii U. Then you just navigate the screens. Simple enough, right?
If you want to know more about the 3DS version, which is out right now, stick around for Jackson's review a little later in the show. And on to something completely different, Rockstar Games has given us a new, up-resed version of GTA San Andreas with a high-def re-release out now for Xbox 360. That is, 10 years to the day of its initial release.
So you back on the block, huh? Yeah, it's good to see you back.
The polished up version will run in 720p, featuring an enhanced draw distance and some other visual improvements. But the most exciting bit, of course, is the stack of new achievements that come with the game. No word as yet on a PlayStation release, sorry. In other Rockstar news though, the studio has stepped up to squash a few pesky internet rumours. Anything you see online claiming to give you access to a beta test for Grand Theft Auto 5 is a hoax. There are no plans for a beta test for the game, which hits PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on November 18 and PC on January 27 next year. Instead of giving you beta access to the game, sites that make this sort of GTA promise are more likely going to give you a virus or something else pretty nasty, so please resist the temptation. Also bringing us a blast from the past, 3D Realms is back with a 32-game anthology out now for PC. Games in the bundle include exactly the ones you would expect, Duke Nukem and Wolfenstein among them, but there's also a few surprises like Monster Bash and Death Rally. The original company closed down half a decade ago, but some of the old school developers have rejoined this new 3D Realms, working on some new and exciting projects. And finally this week, our usual gaming movie update, the Dead Rising movie has cast its Frank West. Rob Riggle is an American comedian you may recognise as the military correspondent from The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and he will be stepping into the lead role in Dead Rising Watchtower when it debuts next year on Sony's Crackle service. Riggle has also featured in films such as 21 Jump Street, The Internship, and more recently, Let's Be Cops. In parallel with the games, Dead Rising Watchtower is set amidst a large-scale zombie outbreak, which may or may not be actually a result of a government conspiracy. This film is a direct-to-digital project hitting Crackle in 2015, when you will be able to watch it on all major consoles, mobile devices, and PC. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, got plenty more still to come.
Doctor, please. I'd scream at the man in the plain slacks and a button-up shirt that looks like a tablecloth. It'll be the third time this week he kicked me out of the clinic. I've told you how to stop the pain in your thumbs and the strain in your palms twice already, he'd tell me. It's simple, Jack. Just turn the video game off. I'd reply, but I just can't stop playing, Doc. I mean, I've tried, but I think about it all the time. I think about it when I'm sitting at my desk at work, I pull it out on the bus ride home, while my girlfriend's in the shower, and while I wait for coffee at the cafe around the corner. It's a constant during my bowel movements. My friends ask to hang out with me and I tell them I'm busy or I'm sick. I think these are all the signs of addiction, Doc, and I need your help. I'd wait for his expression to change to see if any sympathy formed in his eyes before adding, I'm addicted to Super Smash Bros. Super Smash Bros. Is an establishment for every new Nintendo console since the Nintendo 64, where the game was first introduced. This year we are lucky enough to be getting two versions of Super Smash Bros., one for the 3DS and one for the Wii U. It's a ballsy move by Nintendo, but it demonstrates the reverence for the series and the proven money-making formula its chaotic, unpredictable gameplay has provided. Now with Smash for the 3DS, that reverence and seemingly that money-making will only increase. If my completely factual account of a trip to a doctor's should tell you anything at all, it's that this iteration of the Nintendo staple might just be the best iteration yet, though it does have a couple of technical issues. The basic tenets of Super Smash Bros. Have not changed over the years. Beat your opponents so hard using a combination of special attacks and fist fighting that you raise their hit percentage so high you cause them to fly off the screen and explode into a virtual dust cloud. Each revision has slightly altered those mechanics, but here they feel tighter than their predecessor on the Wii, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and a little bit more realistic. Now Smash doesn't rest on its laurels in regards to gameplay options. Classic mode returns but allows you to choose the difficulty of your next battle and rewards those players who choose the hardest routes. Moreover, All-Star mode is slightly revamped but allows you to play successive battles featuring characters from a certain era, starting with the NES flashback. The key addition to Smash for the 3DS exclusively is Smash Run mode. Smash Run mode drops your chosen fighter and 3 others into a maze filled with enemies and asks you to gather as many upgrades as possible to influence speed, defense, attack, and even how high you can jump. After 5 minutes, you land in a random battle, anything from a team fight to a race to the goal, using the upgrades that you've recovered. Now, it's the unlockables that play to one of Smash's greatest strengths. It has no lore, no central story to hook players in. Instead, it relies on the player having already experienced playing as these characters before and having formed a connection with them through the character's own franchises, for instance Mario Brothers or Zelda, Punch-Out and Metroid, or through the previous Smash titles. It uses that nostalgia to its advantage, sandwiching in as many unlockables from those series as will fit into the tiny 3DS cartridge. Trophies and secret characters make a comeback, of course, and provide another driving force of that just once more mentality. Alternatively, you can create a fighter based on your own Mii and get it to fill one of 3 roles: the Brawler, the Sword Fighter, or the Gunner. Your Mii fighter can be customized with their own equipment, which boosts stats, and their own clothing, which changes their aesthetic. Now, the biggest troubles with Smash come from extended playtime and online competition. There's no doubt that although the game is ideal for short bursts, those short bursts often turn into extended bursts and then I can't stop bursts, and that takes your toll on your thumbs and your palms. The online modes are fantastic when they work, but downright infuriating when they don't. Luckily enough, there's plenty of solo action to keep you interested, and if you happen to get in the same room as a few others with a copy of the game, it's that traditional Smash feeling that fills your competitive heart. Besides the aforementioned modes, there's plenty to be found in the return of the Home Run Contest, Target Blast, and Multi-Man Melee, as well as an array of trophy gathering options such as the shop or the new Trophy Rush mode. With the Wii U version on the horizon, you'd be fair to question the necessity of a 3DS version, yet Sakurai and his team have done such a superb job at moulding this into a handheld title which consistently asks you to play just that little bit longer. Painful thumbs and online issues aside, you'd have to be smashed yourself not to pick it up.
We are here with Ben Penrose from Playground Games. We are talking Forza Horizon 2, which has just come out, which looks amazing, and that's kind of convenient because this is the art director, so it's your fault that it looks amazing.
I like to think so, yeah. Thank you very much for saying that. Yeah, it's great.
Obviously, you did have a team behind you, but what sort of work is involved in making a game that looks this good?
It's exactly what you just said, it's that team. So we have a very talented group of people working in various art forms, characters, environment, special effects, and hopefully I do my job in corralling those guys into one space to make something that hopefully fits together and looks very beautiful.
Forza Horizon 2 obviously takes advantage of the Xbox One processing power. It's the sort of game where people have been looking at it and they've been looking at trailers and they've been looking at gameplay and they've been looking at the actual game, and people haven't necessarily been quite sure whether it's a game or whether it's actually real live footage.
So I mean that is absolutely crazy that people are responding like that. I mean, when it comes to making a Forza game specifically, we're always pushing towards that sense of something looking as authentic as possible and as much like real life as we can get, And the fact that people are responding like that says to me that we got pretty close, right? So that's a great thing. It's cool.
One thing that our reviewer actually picked up on was you don't necessarily have to race the super shiny, super sleek, super polished sports cars. You can play with a couple of rust buckets if you really want to. Was that important to you guys to give people that sort of an opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the great things about Horizon is the variety that's open to the player in terms of car selection. There are over 200 cars to choose from when you pick up the game. And yeah, we've tried to include as much there as possible to kind of cater to everybody's tastes. So if you want to take something that's a little bit more left of field, then, hopefully that option is there for you.
He was drifting around in a combi, right?
That sounds great. That sounds perfect. Yeah.
Another thing that's massive and new in Forza Horizon 2 is the dynamic weather system. Did that present any challenges for the art department?
Yeah, lots. many challenges. There were loads of prototypes that we came up with in the studio before we found the exact approach that we wanted. Like everything else, like I just mentioned, when it comes to making a Forza game, authenticity is key, and when it comes to weather, that's no exception. So we wanted to make sure that it came across as believable as possible, and that means you've got to get a lot of things right, and they've all got to happen all at the right time. And like I say, it took a lot of different prototypes, very different approaches, and eventually I think we came up with the one that that really works inside the game, hopefully.
Because it looks amazing. Now, you're talking about authenticity. When you're making a game that, you know, involves giant mechs or robots or monsters, you pretty much have free reign to do whatever you want. How difficult is it to make something that looks exactly like something that actually exists in the real world?
Okay, so well, firstly, grabbing the reference isn't as difficult because it's, you know, it's all around you. The more difficult part is the fact that, you know, everybody every day is looking at that stuff, and so, you know, like as a person, just even if you can't necessarily pinpoint what it is that's wrong, if you know that there's something wrong, you feel it, you see it, and it all comes down to nuance. So you've got to get all the kind of subtle details right to be able to pull off the big picture. So there's a lot of obsession over the tiny things that people might not necessarily notice that we've kind of covered, but hopefully, you know, it comes across as a complete picture at the end.
Do you ever get times where you've actually looked at a real car and modelled it exactly and it just doesn't look right, even though you know that it is in fact pixel perfect?
So yeah, that actually does happen at first. So there's two sides to making the cars look as great as they do. First is that kind of physical accuracy that we that process that we go through to recreate the cars. The second part is actually the way you light them, the way they are reacting with the environment. And if you don't get that bit right, then it's never going to come off. So that's another big part of the process as well. Yeah.
Have you now ruined cars for yourself forever? Can you now not look at a real car on the street without going, oh, okay, so I see how they've done that?
So I personally love cars. The word car was my first word as a child, apparently, according to my parents. If anything, I love cars even more after doing this. I aspire to drive as many lovely ones as possible in my life.
You're aspiring to drive them. You're not aspiring to design real-world lovely cars?
I suppose that would be cool. I think at the moment, you know, I'm very much involved with the video game side of things, and that's very good fun. So, but yeah, I will never rule out designing a real car. That sounds pretty cool.
Cases like this one didn't come along very often. In Red Creek Valley, the secrets grew like spider webs, and Ethan Carter disturbed one he shouldn't have. Now people were dying.
It was around this time last year that the beautifully haunting indie title Gone Home dropped into my lap. I adored that game, although many argued against it actually being a game, since it opened my eyes to the possibilities of what could be achieved from a first-person perspective. You know, other than shooting stuff and racing cars. Well, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter from ex-People Can Fly devs The Astronauts looks to be a worthy successor on all accounts. You step into the shoes and presumably dapper trenchcoat of Detective Paul Prospero, a man tasked with the titular challenge of solving The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. After receiving a letter from Ethan, our protagonist arrives at the forgotten hamlet of Red Falls Valley, where he quickly ascertains that some bad juju is loose and that Ethan is in trouble. How? Well, kind of a 1-2 punch of sweet detective skills that come standard from having a noir internal monologue, and the fact that he's kinda psychic. After that tiny chunk of exposition, your case is underway. But what do? And where do you go? Man, they were not kidding when they said this game is a narrative experience that does not hold your hand. There are no compasses, no waypoints, no tutorial. Just you, standing in a forest, looking confused. This is the true beauty of Ethan Carter though. With no direction comes ultimate exploration, as you just naturally start wandering around, looking for any signs of life, or things out of the ordinary. Being a detective, it's not long before you start to stumble across things that don't seem quite right, like a rope tied across some train tracks, followed by a pool of blood, and then some severed legs. Well, that escalated quickly from a stroll in the woods, and like that, Prospero goes full Sherlock Holmes. The game has you diligently examining the clues, with Prospero's thoughts floating around them, giving you an insight into his mind. After discovering all the clues in the area, you use your psychic powers to open a rift, which reveals snapshots of the events leading up to the murder. You then have to use your powers of deduction, like realizing the victim standing and talking to somebody probably happened before his legs were removed, and then pop them in chronological order. If correct, you're treated to a sort of flashback, which not only makes you privy to what you missed, but also hints on where to go next on your clue hunting extravaganza. It's a surprisingly clever system that leaves you feeling accomplished, as you've solved not only the puzzle, but how to actually play the game itself. Murder is only one of the mysteries you'll be called upon to solve in the hunt for Ethan, with far more bizarre and interesting experiences hidden throughout the world, waiting to be found. Thankfully, wandering through the world of Ethan Carter is anything but a chore. The environments are stunning and beautifully rendered, to the point where you'd be easily convinced this was a AAA release. Bearing witness to the Red Falls Valley's winding forest pathways, ramshackle turn-of-the-century architecture, and breathtaking vistas builds a strange sort of immersion which is equal parts wonderment and melancholy. On occasions, I just stood still, captivated by the little things like swaying grass and sunlight dancing through the forest canopies, and then suddenly feeling an overwhelming sense of unease and need to move on. It's during these unguided exploration moments that the narrative of Ethan Carter is slowly unveiled, told through a series of echoed conversations, precariously placed documents, and even the world itself. You're presented with a wonderfully simple, yet complex and emotional story. Sure, there's some of the moments that feel like they fell straight out of a Ray Bradbury or Lovecraft book, but by the end, it all comes together and you're left sitting there thinking, whoa. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter is a truly beautiful game, in execution, narratively, and especially visually. I can see a lack of direction being frustrating for some, but that same unbridled freedom and sense of discovery is what makes it so engrossing. Definitely not a game for all, but if you liked A, Gone Home, B, like quirky narratives that keep you guessing, or C, stress testing your rig, this game should, without a doubt, be on your Steam Christmas list.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we revisit one of the more controversial games from this year's E3, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. And we also spend some time with Sackboy, Oddsock, Swoop, and Toggle, who all appear in next month's Little Big Planet 3. In the meantime, you can catch us on playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.